Time to crack her open. It's always a bit nerve-wracking breaking one of these open. I'm not used to not being able to see what I do as I'm cooking. There's no hiding it.
After Andy making such a great pork adobo, and by the way, if you haven't seen that video, be sure to watch our review after seeing this one. Today we're going to be seeing how he makes his chicken biryani. If you are new guys, my name is James Makinson. I've been cooking for many years in the United States and over here in Europe, and I have just launched my new website and merchandise. So if you haven't seen either of those two things, then be sure to check all of that out after seeing this video. Now, let's get started.
One of my most popular videos I've ever made was on a chicken biryani dish with over 140 million views. Now, controversially, I did a tomato version, which isn't particularly common in a lot of the world. But today, I thought we'd take a deep dive into one of my more favorite dishes, the Hyderabadi biryani. Let's get stuck in.
Let's get stuck in. I like that catchphrase. But his original video got over 100 million views on TikTok. I don't think even Uncle Roger has a video that has that yet.
Uncle Roger have to put my leg down from chair.
So the first thing we're gonna need is a lot of crispy onions. For that, we're gonna need a lot of really thinly sliced onions. Now you can do it with a knife, the traditional way, or you can do it with a mandolin. Keeps it more consistent. Just be careful because these things take fingers off. Still gets the best of us.
This is true. If you want the slices to be consistently the same size so they cook at like the same time, it is better to use a mandolin, or if you actually have one in the house, not many people do, a deli slicer.
All right, time to fry the onions. Medium sort of low heat. You don't want this too hot because we want time for the caramelization to develop, and you want to use a lot of oil. A vegetable oil, and you're kind of shallow frying them. So that's about 2 centimeters deep there. Let that come up to temperature, and then we'll get these onions in there.
It's a good idea to do this in batches, because if you overcrowd the pan and you add them at once, this can drop the temperature of the oil and it can take a lot longer to cook. Also, they may not cook consistently. Another thing is that after using this oil, it is a good idea to save it because you can reuse it. Make either more onions or a tortilla española or something else, because this oil will contain the actual smell or the flavor of onions.
So once your oil's at sort of a medium low temperature, you don't want it kind of raging hot. You probably want to do 2 or 3 batches, otherwise you overcrowd the pan. Now just keep them moving. Don't walk away from this or you'll have brown onions. You don't want that.
That also means don't play on Instagram and TikTok while you're making this, because otherwise they'll burn on you. You know, little things like this.
The great thing about this dish is that it's really easy to cook for a lot of people and pretty affordable too. You know, you can use chicken drumsticks, which are you know, really affordable. You can just leave the meat out altogether if you really wanted to. Other than that, you've got, you know, rice, onions, a whole bunch of spices and some yogurt. So it's not that expensive to cook for a lot of people.
The only thing I would imagine is that for some of you, depending on where you live, it may be a little difficult to find all the spices, and they may be a little expensive. So if you can get them, at least buying, say, in bulk, it may be a little easier.
So at this point, you can see the water's evaporated. There's lost a lot of volume from the onions, and this is where you need to pay really close attention because things start to happen pretty quickly here. All right, so we've got a lined tray, some paper towel that we can turn our onions out onto, and take them out just before you think they're good enough because they'll keep cooking.
What Andy's saying is right, you need to pay close attention, and it is a very good idea to prep everything beforehand. So again, not thinking like, you know, when the onions are almost done and then going, oh, I need a tray with a little bit of paper, because then, you know, accidents can happen in the kitchen. So it's better to have everything set before you do it. And taking a quick look at these onions, if you can cook them a little less, it would be better. These are a little too done. These are going to be cooked again in the pot with all the other ingredients, so they can cook even more, and you don't want them too dark.
Okay, to marinate the chicken, we're gonna marinate it in the dish that we're gonna cook the biryani in, because I like to save dishes.
Andy, I think you and I would get on very well cooking together. Like seriously.
1 kilo of chicken thighs, skin off. Now you can use chicken drumsticks, work really well. You can buy a whole chicken and break it down, works really well as well. But I do think it's probably worthwhile getting something on the bone. It's a bit more fiddly when you're eating it, but I think it's worthwhile. To start, yogurt.
With Andy saying this, it just kind of reminds me of the Jamie butter chicken video. Has Jamie Oliver made a biryani video? Like ever? Himself, not somebody else cooking for him? Yeah, I'm curious to actually see if he's made one now.
Chili powder. This is Kashmiri chili powder. If you can't get Kashmiri, normal stuff will do. turmeric.
Now, when you get the Kashmiri chili powder, just have a little taste before you use it because it's not supposed to be like super spicy. Mine that I got was a lot hotter than say the pimenton or the sweet paprika that we use here in Spain, because the sweet paprika is not spicy at all. It's just for flavor and color. That's it. It's just a word of advice, because in the end, if you don't taste it and you don't know, keep adding it, and then at the very end you taste it, you may have a surprise.
Garam masala, you can make your own or just use a shop bought like this. Ginger paste, a little bit of garlic, juice of a lemon, green chili. Just simply slice, leave the seeds in.
What a lovely kitchen. I would honestly like to have something like this, because here normally what you have are galley kitchens like what you see behind me. And galley kitchens are ones that I don't like. I can't stand galley kitchens, especially the ones that are super narrow, because then you can't put anything anywhere, and when somebody tries to, you know, get past you, you have to stop what you're doing.
Cinnamon stick, some green cardamom pods. We're gonna go, say, 6. We're gonna go 8, and we're just gonna lightly crush them. Cumin seeds, 4 cloves. Salt. And this is where we start layering in herbs. So I've got some mint, just roughly chopped, and of course coriander.
Lots and lots of spices. If you haven't seen our previous videos with like Joshua Wiseman making this and all our other biryani videos as well, normally you do use a lot of spices. And I think in Joshua's, he actually used over 80 spices. I think, I forget. If you haven't seen that video, then be sure to check that video out after seeing this one.
About 1/3 or just more than 1/3 of our onions that we just fried up. Make sure all the chicken is completely covered and your spices are evenly distributed. And then we're gonna marinate it. So you can marinate this for 24 hours in the fridge. You can marinate it for an hour, just at room temp if you really wanted to. But I suggest that you do it for at least 4 hours, if not 24 hours.
The longer you allow the chicken to marinate, the more flavor it will have. And this is one of those recipes that marinating the chicken for 10 minutes is not going to get you very far.
I'm gonna let that marinate for about 10 minutes.
Ideally, you could even marinate the chicken overnight. So doing the prep the day before and then the following day, finishing everything.
Our chicken has been in the fridge for 3 hours. It's time to start getting our rice. Now, you want an aged basmati rice, very important. Should be like a nice color like this, kind of goldeny brown almost, nice long grain, and that's how we get those really nice singular grains at the end dish.
Joshua also used aged basmati rice in his video, and this is one of those things that if you can get it, then get it. For some people, especially like in my area, getting aged basmati rice is something that I would have to really try to find and special order it, because it's not common. I can get basmati, but I can't get this type. Now the difference with aged basmati rice is that it is aged, so it has less water content, and like a nice wine, it develops more flavor. So it should be more aromatic. Also, the holidays are just around the corner, and I have just launched my new classic collection of merchandise. So if you guys haven't seen it, then be sure to check them out after seeing this video.
First up, we need to wash it into a large bowl and over to the sink. So cold water, and we're gonna rinse it 2 times. So a third amount of water, we're gonna leave it in there, and we're gonna let it soak for 35 to 40 minutes.
If you don't rinse the rice, what can happen is that when it cooks, it will start to clump together because of the excess starch. And also it is a good idea to rinse it if you want to get rid of, say, any debris or anything if it's not clean. In the Western countries, I've said this many times, but some methods on cooking rice, we don't wash it because we need that starch. With this, no, you need to wash it.
Once our biryani is layered, we're actually gonna pour over some saffron milk. So I've got some warm milk here, and we're pretty simply gonna steep some saffron in it. If you can't get saffron, or it's a little bit out of your budget, just use some turmeric in place.
Saffron is one of those spices that not just adds color, but also a very unique flavor and aroma. So if you can get it, you need to get it. But keep in mind that saffron, if it looks too cheap to be true, it may be. There is a massive counterfeit market with saffron. When I mean counterfeit, is things that you don't want to be consuming. They're either horsehair, plastic, or other things that they're bad for you. So you need to make sure when you're buying it that you're buying it from a reputable source.
When we are cooking the biryani, we really need to make sure we seal the lid tightly and it keeps all the steam in and steams everything nicely. There's a couple of ways you can do it. You can put a tea towel underneath, or you can make a little dough, long piece of dough to go around the outside. This is a little bit more work, but it's kind of theatrical as well. And I think if you're having friends over, doing this kind of looks pretty cool. Putting it to the table, pull the dough off, serve it up.
That is pretty cool. And Joshua actually made this in his video, but he was having a little bit of trouble with it. You can't make it too sticky or too dry. It has to be like a pliable, like putty, really, and the consistency.
We're not trying to make anything that's really going to be edible, so don't stress too much. Water in the middle, and bring it together. So you want a pretty workable dough. You don't want too dry or too wet. So we're gonna have to roll it out like a big log. If it's too wet, it'll kind of, when the steam hits it, it'll kind of melt away almost. All right, we get it to a shaggy mess like this, and we can start kneading it with our hands.
This is definitely old school because today, I mean, we have specialty equipment, specialty pots as well, either crock pots or pressure cookers that will actually make this without the need of adding, say, a tea towel or something else to seal it.
This is kind of a common technique used in a few different cultures. If you want to seal a pot properly, pull a few really inexpensive ingredients together. So we'll roll this out into a long batten basically, and then we can let it rest and we'll do the final part once we've got everything layered up, and it gives it time for the dough to relax and it's kind of easier to work. Cool. Leave that in the bowl until we need it.
Now, if any of you have not seen our very first review of Epicurious making biryani, well, 3 different ways, you need to see that video. You'll have a laugh. Well, maybe not, maybe you'll cry, but it's something that you need to see.
Large pot with a lid of boiling water. It's about just over half full. We're just gonna season that with a little bit of salt, and then we're gonna flavor it. Some green cardamom, a green chili in half, cinnamon stick, 2 cloves, some cumin seeds. So when you're doing stuff like this, it's all about layering flavors. So any time we can add flavor to the equation, we will. So we're obviously gonna blanch our rice in this. So by adding these additional aromats, all we're doing is layering flavor.
I know this is one of those dishes that doesn't have, say, such a standard recipe that everyone makes it exactly the same. There is a little bit of a difference between this chef, the other chef, and the other, but any chefs watching, Indian chefs watching that makes this for a living, let me know down below your thoughts on how to cook the rice.
So our rice has been soaking. We'll drain as much water off this as we can. So we're gonna put our temperature on hot, because as soon as this rice goes in, it's gonna drop the temperature. So we're gonna be really careful. I can't emphasize this enough. I'm gonna cook this rice till it's just cooked. It's like really al dente. It's still got a bit of bite in there, but it's still gonna cook once we layer it with our chicken in the final dish.
Yeah, this is the important part. Basmati is one of these types of rice that also doesn't take like a lot of time to cook, because you're gonna cook it later on after this. It's still going to cook. So you just want to par cook it.
Once it's come up to the simmer, we can probably check it because it's probably ready. This really won't take long. You're talking, 4 or 5 minutes, I'd say max. All right, we're just starting to see it start to boil. Just to be really careful at this point because we do not want to overcook this.
Now, this is speaking from experience, and we've all been there. I've overcooked rice myself. It happens sometimes. This is one of those things, though, that put the phone down, pay attention, put the timer on too. This is another thing. This helps.
Chicken from the fridge. Onto the heat, high temperature. So we're not trying to cook the chicken at this point, we're just trying to kind of start the process happening. We're going to do about 4 or 5 minutes on high temperature. We're going to keep stirring it pretty well, and then we're going to remove half the chicken and start the layering.
Interesting. This is the same thing that your food lab did. He pre-cooked the chicken though, before he started layering it, but we did see Joshua as well layer the chicken raw with already the cooked rice. So that was another method that I actually haven't really seen raw chicken mixed with rice before, but then again, there are many different types of biryani and many different methods on making it.
Whew. That smells incredible.
I think someone's happy. He's right though, is that when you cook with this many spices in the house, I mean, your house will smell fragrant. And me, I like this. Not everybody does, but with me growing up with my dad being a chef as well, and also in the US where everything is open, I've always had the smell of food in the house.
So while our chicken is doing its thing over there, we'll get our little dough ready for the outside. So this dough is pretty wet. Use a bit of flour. Oh, very wet. And we're just trying to roll a big log that will be long enough. You can actually just stretch it. It'll be long enough to go around the whole of the pot. You kind of want it a bit sticky, but you don't want to stick to the board when you need it.
So far, Andy has done an excellent job, and I think this is going to turn out really good.
So I'm going to turn the heat off completely, and I'm going to pull out half of the chicken. So there's 6 big pieces in here. I'm going to pull out 3. A little bit of the gravy. Now we start layering. So we're going to have 2 layers. So 2 layers of chicken, 2 layers of rice. Sorry, it's a bit chefy of me, but I'm just going to clean up this pot. We used to get told off if we didn't back when I was working for people in Europe.
This is a force of habit, and when Andy's meaning like he was told off, that's putting it nicely. You can either be told off a normal way, or you can be told off in a very nasty way, and more often than not, it tends to be something that you'll remember so you don't do it again.
He's burnt 3 pans full. Now, you burnt it. We've got half the dining room not served yet. We fucked so many baths so early, we've run out.
If any of you want to see how a European kitchen normally runs, just watch an episode of Hell's Kitchen. It's not exactly the same, but it brings back memories. Fun memories too.
All right, now we've got a clean pot. We can continue on. So sprinkle our rice. See a cinnamon stick in there, just leave it, doesn't matter. Oh, even the rice smells good, so fragrant. Just make sure it's nice and even.
And this is what happens when you're happy with your own cooking. You keep praising it.
Now we're gonna sprinkle some of our onions, coriander, mint, and a last layer of rice. Make sure it's nice and even. Got those chilies in there, we'll leave them in there. More flavor. Onions.
I wonder if Andy has somebody holding the camera for him, because it kind of looks like he has help. Then again, he may not. He may have just multiple cameras, which also helps.
More herbs. And our saffron milk. All right, it's time to seal this thing up. Lid on. And we'll seal it with our dough. And the other option is just to put a really nice clean tea towel under the lid. That works just as well, to be perfectly honest. But I think this is the more traditional way. Could be wrong.
Emphasis on clean tea towel or chef cloth. Yeah, it needs to be clean, because if it's not and it smells, you don't want that in your food.
Our biryani is nice and sealed. We're going to go straight to maximum heat for 10 minutes. Then we're going to turn it down, right down to really pretty low. So I'm going to go like number 2 here on this induction, and we're going to cook it for another 30 minutes.
Now, if you're going to follow Andy's recipe, just keep in mind that he is using an induction, and this cooks very differently than gas or electric, like an electric coil. Induction heat is immediate, and you can get a pot up to boiling very quickly. Another tip is to use a Dutch oven or another pot that has a thick bottom to it. So that way, you don't burn everything when you cook it.
She's been cooking for 40 minutes in total. We're going to let it rest for 20 minutes before you crack her open. It's always a bit nerve-wracking breaking one of these open. I'm not used to not being able to see what I do as I'm cooking. There's no hiding it.
Well, I mean, there are still ways on hiding it if you did mess up a bit, but this is true. You are kind of showing exactly how it's made. Hopefully the bottom is not burnt.
So what we're looking for is nice individual grains of rice, chicken nicely cooked, and look at that. That is what we're after. Nice individual grains of rice. See if this chicken's cooked. Oh yeah.
Do you see what I mean by the crispy onions cooking longer? Well, they're not crispy anymore, but they cooked longer and they're even darker. So golden brown is a good color to cook them to before cooking this. And the rice looks perfect.
So on a big tray or something, and you kind of want to plate this up in layers the way that it comes out of the pot, if that makes sense. Just going to finish with a little bit more coriander and mint. And there we have it. Hyderabadi biryani. Guess we better eat some. So, the most important part, what does it taste like?
Andy outdid himself. If you want to be super like picky about it, if we look at this piece of chicken here that I think was the one on the bottom, it does have a different color to it, doesn't it? Then again, he cooked with an induction, so yeah, it happens.
It's beautiful. It's fragrant, light, all those different flavors and aromats are coming through. Your rice is perfectly cooked. The chicken's still nice and moist. This is one dish that's definitely worth the hype. There's really good reason why it's loved all around the world. It's really not that tricky to pull together, and it's one of those things that you just get better and better at making the more you do it. So make this one for your friends and family. They will love you for it.
The only thing I really have to say is that Andy did a bloody good job, and excellent job. If any Indian chefs are watching or anyone specialized in Indian cuisine, let me know your thoughts down below on how Andy did. But Andy, if you do see this when I visit Australia, I would love to cook with you sometime. I really would, as well as Vincenzo. So hopefully we can make that happen. Uncle Roger should review this video. And be sure to check out our new website as well as our new merchandise, which hopefully you will enjoy. The holidays are just around the corner. If you want to see another good video on making biryani, or maybe a train wreck video, then check out this next video coming up here, maybe Epicurious's video, and I will see you again very soon. Until then, take care.